Hey guys, need help with Anomaly Arbitration? Well, you've come to the right place. Here's everything I'll be covering in this video. Feel free to skip to whatever timestamps you need. If you need some team ideas, a spreadsheet with sample clears for all 4 game modes will be available in the description. Alternatively, if you'd like to submit your clears and add to the database, feel free to add your teams to the Google form below. So, let's start with the big boss himself, Lygus. What's new? Well, for one, since we're fighting a level 100 stage instead of a level 95 stage, enemies will deal 14% more damage. Enemy attack increases with level, and our effective defense decreases the higher enemy levels are compared to ours, which means that this stage hurts way more than its MOC counterpart. This also goes the other way around, where our attacks deal slightly less damage due to enemies having higher defense, which scales with level. Thankfully, it's not double counted like attack and enemy level increases are, though. The silver lining to this is that Defense Shred is slightly more effective, since each percent of Defense Shred now takes away a larger amount of defense. Another thing, and this actually applies to all of Anomaly Arbitration stages, is that action value doesn't reset between waves. Unlike MOC, where the 150 action value before your first cycle is counted resets between waves, you get both counts of AV, totaling 300, before your first cycle and no reset. The end result is that the amount of action value you have to clear per cycle is the same, but the speed breakpoints change, since each cycle breakpoint now ends in a multiple of 100 instead of 50. I've included a quick chart with some useful AA adjusted breakpoints here, and we'll go over a few others depending on the stage. We also get 3 additional debuffs to shackle certain archetypes' performance. Between inversion and energy absorption, all characters now lose 2% max HP and 2 energy per target hit, for a max of 10% max HP and 10 energy on AoE hits. This obviously punishes erudition characters, which is lore accurate, but it also means that Tribi without her S1 loses 4 energy per follow-up. Thankfully, this energy loss is fixed, and does not increase with energy regen, and of course, energyless characters like Castress, Finon, and Fei Xiao are unaffected. In fact, cast teams really like the HP drain on top of that, if anything. In case you're thinking of running this sustainless, by the way, Sunder makes that near impossible, with characters losing an extra 0.8% of their max HP per attack received, and the stackable debuff can only be cleansed by external healing or shielding. Self-heals, like Finons and Fireflies, sadly cannot cleanse it. It's not all bad though. Energy absorption also gives 10 extra energy per kill, helping refund some of that lost energy if you can consistently finish off enemies. And as for selectable buffs, think outside the box is basically your Remembrance and Finon buff. Think anyone who can use the Arcadia set. Infantry and Cavalry is for ult and skill spammers. Think whoever can use the Scholar set. And with the Sustain being all but required for everyone besides E2 Finon, Hammer and Anvil helps everyone else survive and hopefully not get one-shot, while providing a nice generic res pen boost. Do note that like Sunder, you need external healing from an ally not named yourself, so healers and shielders won't receive the res pen or damage reduction buff, making them a bit squishier compared to the rest of your team. Unless your name is Hyacine, that is. Compared to MOC's Lygus, HP values are almost 4 times higher than what they were into MOC, especially when you take the lessened damage from a plus 5 enemy level increase into account. Mobs have 1 million HP, making them significant obstacles, especially those Wave 1 Eagles. Almost 4 to 5 million HP elites are no slouch either. Lygus counters are basically no different than what they were in MOC, you just need more vertical investment to see the same results. The HP drainers are actually able to 3-star clear with no limited eidolons, and zero cycle pretty handily with an E2 DPS. Finon also destroys the stages of both E0 and E2, and is the only character able to run sustainless pretty handily at high enough investment. DOT's high damage capabilities and ability to run a triple core with sustain to really abuse Lycus's antimony makes them great versus this stage too. Just below them are the usual suspects, with the rest of the flagship 3.0 AoE and single target mixed DPS, plus Brute Force Archer and Fei Xiao, able to 2 to 3 star clear with eidolon investment and mostly 1 star without. And as for the bottom tier, well, 1-star clears are definitely still on the table, 2-star clears with vertical investment, but I doubt what they have what it takes for anything above that. This just isn't a very forgiving game mode. Perhaps more important than the DPS though is the sustain. Hyacine is the best by far, and no one even comes close. Not only is her sustaining capability unmatched, aka the #1 check Anomaly Arbitration asks of you, but she also gets lots of hit energy to make up for her usual SP problems, converts all those hits back into personal damage, and by taking the pressure off of sustaining, leaves your team free to focus on all-inning the enemy. As for everyone else, Permanencer Teray is the newest sustain on the block, so I'd imagine his numbers are up to stuff, but as an attack-based sustain, I don't know if he'll do a good job of surviving himself. He might need Robin for thicker shields and Sunday for more frequent shield refreshes, but until his official kit drops and real play testing on live server occurs, I can't say much more than that definitively. From there, it's just the 5-star sustains in Gallagher over the 4 stars. He and Huohuo have questionable sustaining capabilities to say the least, but it's enough, and the utility they provide is strong enough to justify the team slot. And for supports, helping with survivability, while being useful if advanced forward by Lygus and regaining their ults, is great. Tribi and RMC are top tier for being great tanks with those aforementioned traits. Tribi in particular helps provide more AoE damage to speed up Lygus' nuke, which can be a double-edged sword if your AoE is lacking, but it usually ends up being a pure plus. RMC having Mem to soak up hits, especially versus Wave 1 sweep attacks and Wave 2's blast, bounce, and shared HP nukes, is really great too. Generic debuffers like Cypher and Silverwolf are also pretty strong, with their ability to lower enemy damage output and provide frequent breaks to slow down attacks for non-HP drained teams. Sunday is Sunday, and refreshing a full ult while being able to pull up another DPS while costing down its HP is powerful versus a Lygus matchup if you can afford to do so. The rest of the supports, well, you kinda know already who to pair them with. Special shoutouts to Sparkle, who gets frequent 1-turn and 0-turn ults for Archer, providing way more SP than she should normally be able to. Also to Robin, who likes to ult refresh, but getting pulled up is wasted on her, meaning you have to either pray for Antinomy to not hit her, or think about which teams you want to place her on. Saritra getting frequent ult is also nice if it happens, since it accelerates her double skill proc, but with the Finon team, she's usually not getting targeted anyways. I've gone over Lygus' attack patterns in depth during my previous MOC guide, which you can check in the description, so let's start this fight with Wave 1, since it's pretty different this time and a major roadblock for many teams. Wave 1 consists of 2 elites, a tankier and faster Noontide Gryphon, and a slower but more threatening Moonlit Pegasus. Starting with the Noontide Gryphon, its first turn consists of a single target attack, followed by a sweep attack against the rightmost 3 allies. This attack will inflict Aquila's Mark, or the sun-shaped one, against every hit, and 3 meteoric eagles will spawn, with the leftmost eagle being linked to the leftmost mark, and so on. Killing each eagle will remove their respective mark, which, at 1 million HP, isn't exactly the easiest thing to do. Speaking of said eagles, they alternate between single target attacks and buffing one random enemy with Storm Ride, giving them double actions for a single turn, and yes, this can target the elites. Gryphon's turn 2 is another single target attack, followed by a lock-on a random ally. This locked-on ally then tanks a blast hit on turn 3, which also inflicts Aquila's Mark to everyone hit. Remember, if Gryphon is Storm Rider before its turn 2, both turns 2 and 3 happen back to back, so just pray that it doesn't get targeted. As for the Moonlit Pegasus, its turn 1 is a single target, followed by locking onto 2 random allies. This is followed by a strong attack that inflicts Oryx's Mark, or the Moon one, on those locked on allies on turn 2. These marks can be removed by using said character's ults. Turn 3 is another single target, followed by a sweep on the leftmost 3 enemies that inflicts Oryx's Mark as well. So, as for what these marks do, well, tanking any 2 marks will remove them, inflict 25% max HP as true damage, and have the following effects depending on which marks were removed. 2 suns, lose 40 energy. 2 moons, 100% base chance entanglement proc. Sun and moon, both. The top priority in this battle is ensuring your characters don't get entangled from moon procs, and to do so you have a few options. The first and most ideal is to kill the eagles and or Gryphon to remove the Aquila's marks. Pegasus applies Oryx's marks pretty slowly, so if it's the only one remaining, it's much less of a threat. If you can't do that before the danger zones indicated here though, then aim to break the Pegasus before its turn 2, as this will let the Gryphon hopefully detonate its double sun marks, increasing the chance that none of your DPS or squishy units will get entangled by the incoming double moons. Also, if you really can't have the character be entangled, the very most right side will be the safest, as it's a 50% or lower chance to be randomly targeted on turn 1, and the 3 moons on the 3rd turn will never land on any rightmost characters. Either that, or the middle if you're relying on the Gryphon to detonate those double suns, in which case, I hope your DPS is tanky enough to take the true damage burst. Breaking the Pegasus will also place it in front of the Gryphon, giving you a brief window to ult on Pegasus' 3rd turn before the Gryphon acts, removing the moon marks before the Gryphon's suns. As for Lygus himself, evolution mode is pretty straightforward, aka his first mode. You should probably pop your ults right away or as soon as the Fury warriors spawn, as the hit energy from Lygus' first turn is more than enough to make up losing a potential War Armor proc for only 6% max energy. Turn 2 refunds a random character's ult, but only gets to happen if Lygus himself is not broken or delayed. Otherwise, he gets pushed behind the mode change. Most characters won't need to worry about that, but if your game plan involves breaking Lygus, know that you'll be missing an extra ult and action advance chance early on. At 100 AV, you're guaranteed a mode change, though obviously Evernight and Castorus can accelerate this change by adding their Memo Sprite summonings to the spawn counter. Upon phase change, you essentially have just over a 0 cycles worth of action value to finish killing 10 enemies, unless you're an HP drain team, in which the requirement only drops to 8. Immediately though, Lygus will advance 2 team members and grant them 2 ults, as well as spawn these 4 mobs at 60% HP and at these action values. Each time these mobs act, they'll lower their HP to 20%, making it a bit more manageable, but depending on where they are in the action order, waiting that long until they take their turn might not be feasible. Axes, of course, you can advance by killing another mob, but do mind your health while trying to get as many mobs to attack you as possible, as their AoE on death hurts a lot more than their regular attacks. The second pair of ult refreshes will happen just before 100 AV if Lygus doesn't get CC'd, at which point you're staring down about a 3k shared HP nuke with 2 entanglement procs. Go any further than this, and even HP drained teams won't appreciate getting 3 or more team members' actions delayed. It really is a race against time, with the only alternative being running single target brute forcers and never going beyond Lygus' 50% vulnerability. If you choose this strat, then for the love of all that is good, do not bring a strong DPS Tribby. Her damage will be your downfall. Alrighty, now on to the night stages. Night 1 is your obvious break chill, minus Boot Hill sadly. Rappa and Firefly are your clear best in slots, with Anaxla actually making mincemeat of this stage too. Acheron does great, and the need for Quantum and Fire Break for waves 1 and 2 makes Silverwolf and Zhao Cho much stronger for her than they are normally. Finon implants everyone a physical weakness all the time when he's ulting, so he's not bad versus the Dinos and obviously slaps Quieter silly. Single target breakers like Fate and Boot Hill can still do well, but take a bit more investment than usual to make work versus multi-target content. Honestly, with the exception of wave 1, with non-broken enemies having 80% damage reduction, you can pretty much just brute force this stage since only 30% damage reduction on a 2.77 million shared HP, 2-phase boss is child's play by current standards. As for sustains, Lingsha and Gallagher are the obvious choices, and from there it just goes down in descending usefulness for breaking. Probably Hyacine's worst matchup stage, which is saying a lot since she's great on night 2, and golden for night 3. And supports-wise, Super Break comes out on top of course, with honorable mentions to Silverwolf, Cypher, and Tribby, who help a lot with breaking the wave 1 dinos. Wolfie can uniquely implant other weaknesses for the team versus the dinos, then implant Quantum weakness versus Choir to continue contributing toughness damage off element. And well, Zhao Cho's Blast and AoE Fire toughness makes him a more legit support option all around, should you have the space to run him. As for the rest, well, you know what teams they fed on. Here's some useful speed breakpoints for the top performing break DPS on wave 1 if you want to reduce your sustainless resets. As for the rest of the DPS, just look at the enemy speeds coming up ahead and aim to outspeed them, while still hitting your usual Anomaly Arbitration speed breakpoints. As for wave 2, make sure to focus on breaking the Impresario on phase 1 for maximum action delay, giving you the most time to break all 3 together. And if you're running Lingsha or Gallagher, save their ults for the phase 2 start to instantly break future. Well, to be precise, only E6 Gallagher with Ron May or Lingsha with 100% weakness break efficiency can break the center elite before it takes its turn, but any ult to assist an E0 Lingsha with Ron May, like Fuchs for instance, will also do the trick. High FRS allies, like Firefly, Gallagher, and Aventurine, are also nice for tanking and resisting Alien Dream procs, so keep that in mind for this stage. Implants like Silverwolf and Anaxa also have pretty unique value, so keep them in your back pocket as well, especially considering they're less than stellar matchups versus the other 2 stages. Really, the number 1 tip I have if you're a free-to-play, playing Break versus this stage, and want to run a sustain is to just run Gallagher. He makes acquire matchups so much easier. As alluded to previously, the stage debuff provides an extra 30% damage reduction for non-broken enemies, which stacks with a mean 50% damage reduction as well. This damage reduction goes down by 15% per break, and yes, Fuchs Exo Breaks work with this, meaning that double breaking an enemy will completely remove their damage reduction. For perspective, by the way, the Dinos have over 9 million effective HP if not broken, and less than 1 million if broken, so yeah, breaking these things is basically mandatory if you want to clear the stage. And the longer you go without breaking the Dinos, the more and more damage they deal, so it should be your priority anyways. As for Wave 2, Choir is the same as before. Really low toughnesses, massive vulnerability, and extra delay if broken, so yeah, an absolute feast for Super Break. Not to mention, 6 breaks is great for break in general too. Here are all the attacks that Choir inflicts, which honestly I won't bother going much into. In a nutshell, the left Peasant Elite doesn't hit you, meaning no hit energy or no CC. It's also slow, so no cool tricks to let it detonate your dots early to avoid extra DOT procs. Break it whenever you can. The Center Future Elite is the fastest and can put one or multiple of your allies to sleep. It also has the most toughness, so try to break this one first before its CC potentially messes with your team. And the right Pass Elite hits a lot of your allies, meaning that it can dispel sleep, but at a steep HP cost since sleeping allies tend to take 50% more attack damage. If you're counting on this elite to wake up your sleeping ally, obviously don't break it, but if you're just worried about damage, focus on breaking this one too. Wave 2 has the same attacks, just with Order's Commandment added into the mix. It attacks at the start of Phase 2, acts at 144 speed, and each break, not Exo Break, delays its next action by 25%. Every time it attacks, you basically get an AoE attack with 50% vulnerability and a minor AoE DOT. It also resets Future's AV to be 99% advanced, Present's AV to be 50% advanced, and Past's AV to be 20% delayed, resetting their attack patterns as well. Since all 3 elites have Impresario now, if you break any of them, they probably won't be acting until the next Order's Commandment. Not a very hard fight to understand, to be honest. Either break or brute force it. Night 2 is the anti-crit stage, and by process of elimination, plus the Wave 1 elites, it's a pretty obvious DOT show. Break is also pretty good if you can afford to bring it, with Boothill actually preferring this matchup with physical weed elites on Wave 1, who he can proc frequent breaks and break bleeds off of. Otherwise, just try and find the DPS that can stack the most crit damage to try and overcome the up to minus 300% crit damage you'll be inflicting, which basically encompasses the latter half of 2.x and all of version 3. Fine on can brute force this as well, but if you take too long for phase 2, Meme will just steal him, at which point it lights out. Just like Night 1 though, the elite wave is arguably the more annoying part of this stage, with the DOT fishies dealing lots of frequent AoE damage. But the flip side is that your sustains get a lot of energy to work with. Great for the limited girlies, alright for the limited men and Gallagher, and not so great for everyone else. As for supports, DOT kinda has a triple DOT core already, so for everyone else, Break reigns supreme, especially with Harmony MC's high single target imaginary toughness being good versus Meme. Should you choose to run crit though, Cypher helps with annoying damage reduction mechanics later on in the HP bar by storing true damage from damage done earlier on. And in addition to providing a small crit damage buff herself, Robin's ult crit damage is fixed, meaning that she actually ignores the stage's debuff when dealing damage. Free ult from the fishies and Meme are nice too. Otherwise, bring crit damage buffers like Sunday and Sparkle and stack as much crit damage as you can to hopefully deal enough damage before Meme steals too many of your characters. As for actual play, on Wave 1, try to proc the fish's damage reduction state as fast as possible, since they'll keep taking the 70% of the unreduced crit damage that you dealt earlier in the fight as repeated DOTs. Said state also lasts 125 AV, meaning that you'll need 160 speed or more to attack twice within it. Here are the breakpoints to achieve that. Since a lot of fishies spawn, only some of which you need to actually kill to advance the wave, you can always check in battle for a self-destruct status to know which one you don't have to kill if you forget mid-battle. Also, if sustaining is an issue, it might be that 29% damage amp the Lady Elite inflicts on its first turn, so try and clutch it ASAP. Versus Meme, it's pretty tanky with that crit damage debuff factored in, so here are some examples of sets and line codes you can switch to in order to increase your team's crit damage. Sparkle's S1 and Chibi's S1 are also obviously amazing if you have them, but I don't expect everyone to have those limited 5-star options when they've been marketed as DDD side grades. I'll mention this again when I get to Meme's attacks, but it's important enough to mention up front. Any dead characters return at 50% of their HP and regain their ults if broken out of the Sombrous Sepulchers they're stored in, so you might be able to use it to your advantage in a sustainless run if certain support's HP is running low. Alright, on to Wave 1. It's a bit like old Pure Fiction where not all of the enemies spawn at once, instead being layered like so. This makes this wave even more of a frequent attack check than it is normally, so plan accordingly and try to take out the mobs as soon as possible to start laying waste to the hidden elite. I've already covered the enemy attack patterns in my Lygus video, and also mentioned the key points when finding them already, but feel free to look over their entire attack patterns here if you need any extra pointers. Note that there's no CC anywhere in their kits, just lots of repetitive damage and AoE hits. As for Meme though, I've never covered it before, mainly because it's been so long since its last endgame appearance, so let's begin. Turn 1 has it open with an AoE into a single target attack, then turn 2 has it use a single target attack and then initiate a charging state. After 3 uses a basic, skill, and ult, the ally who procced the third use immediately gets yoinked into Death's Jail, being placed into a Sombrous Sepulcher. Turn 3 has it use the AoE this time, followed by it doubling its damage next turn, which will be the same attacks performed on turn 1. By this point, Meme should hopefully be onto phase 2 because a double damage AoE in single target will most certainly kill at least one member of your team outright, with no chance for parole. This 3-turn cycle repeats until phase 2, at which point Meme immediately activates everyone's ults. The next 2 characters who act will be killed in Meme's next turn and placed in Sombrous Sepulchers as well, which Meme will follow up with an AoE right after. These Sombrous Sepulchers have 5 HP, 264 speed, and 30 toughness. While they do take turns, they don't attack, instead losing 1 HP per hit and dot taken, and 2 HP per break received. I know the wiki says it's minus 1 HP per break, but based on my own testing, it's 2. Like, it has to be 2. When killing these tombs, they return the locked unit at the same AV they were at where they were trapped, at 50% of their max HP, and a free ult for their troubles. How nice of them. Turn 3 is the same as phase 1's turn 1, with an AoE into a single target attack, and the 3-turn cycle also resets here until Meme dies. You really want to deal as much damage as possible for Meme's turn 2, as well losing half your team understandably makes your team perform much slower, including the process of breaking out your trapped half of the team, dots and breaks notwithstanding. And of course, if Meme traps all 4 of your team members, since they are considered dead while in the Sepulchers, it's an auto loss. Alright, now on to the most straightforward but also most painful stage, Night 3. Basically, the more single target and blast damage your character can do, and the better they can take a beating, the better of a matchup they have. Got it? Cool. Likewise, for Sustain, there's no CC to worry about, just raw damage. If your Sustain can handle lots of AoEs and bounce attacks, you're golden. And as for supports, the tankier they are and the more they can condense your excess blast and AoE damage into single target profiles, the better they are. And if I'm being honest, this is just a prototype for the Lygus fight, which is why I'm speedrunning through it. If your team is good versus Night 3, it's likely good versus Lygus. Shout out to Blade for being a good matchup here uniquely though, with the lower HP pools and less strict AV checks. For useful tips regarding this fight, you really don't want to be outsped due to how hard and frequently enemies hit, so shoot for at least 158.4 speed on your supports and sustains. Quantum and Wind supports are also the most effective at breaking here, so try and bring them versus this stage. It also helps that 2 of said supports, Tribby and Cypher, can abuse the unkillable bombs in wave 1 and 2 like no one else can. However, remember that damage is the only thing you can collect off of said mobs. They can't be CC'd, debuffed, or lose any toughness unless those debuffs ignore FRES checks. As for wave 2, focusing down one elite at a time to ease sustain requirements, rather than evenly splitting damage to kill all 3 at once, is the best course of action. The stage debuff this time is that characters take 2% of their max HP per enemy hit, which punishes normal AoE damage dealers while simultaneously rewarding blast and AoE HP drain units. The wave 1 enemy layout has 2 speedy Blacktide archers, 1 slower blade, and 1 medium fast Daemon elite with 2.44 million HP that you need to kill to advance to wave 2. The archers inflict frequent AoE attacks, with half of the damage being healable as corrosion HP, and the blade has blast attacks with only 20% of it turning into corrosion. As for the Daemon, its turn 1 is a single target attack, followed by a hard-hitting bounce with 50% corrosion. On turn 2, it absorbs all available corrosion HP, losing 30% defense for 1 turn if there's none to steal, charging instead if 3 or more corrosion bars have been absorbed, and otherwise using its bounce attack again. It repeats its 2-turn cycle unless it is charged, in which case the next turn is a strong AoE with 20% corrosion attached. And remember, to charge it has to collect 3 or more corrosion bars. Wave 2 has 2 of these Daemons with the same exact attack patterns, plus a Black Sun Gryphon. This Gryphon performs an AoE attack on turn 1, and then immediately summons 2 archers that only attack when the Gryphon does. Gryphon's turn 2 is another AoE, followed by charging for an even harder hitting AoE on turn 3. Considering how fast this thing is and how you can't even act in between its attacks and the archer's attacks, which, reminder, are guaranteed to happen because they are unkillable and uninterruptible, it's just a matter of spacing out your sustains and being able to survive the onslaught until you can wipe the wave of about 2.5 million HP elites. Or, just run Hyacine and win, I guess. Anyways, that's all I got, so thanks for watching. Good luck with your clears if you still need it, and have a great day.